card arrived on a Tuesday, cream-colored, embossed, the kind that screams we spent actual money on our stationery. I almost threw it away without opening it, almost. You are cordially invited to the marriage of Isla Vaughn and Colton Mercer. My stomach did something weird. A flip, a twist, the kind of physical reaction your body gives you when your brain catches up 3 seconds too late to what your eyes are reading. Colton Mercer, Colt, 4 years. Not since we had ended things badly, or rather, ended with him ending things, which, in retrospect, was the better outcome for both of us. I just hadn't known that at the time. I flipped the card over, handwritten note on the back, in handwriting I recognized immediately. Neat, confident, infuriating. Hey Tessa, I am getting married. Hope you can come celebrate with us. I really hope you find someone who is at least half as good as me. You deserve to be happy too. Maybe this time find someone who appreciates. Well, you know, see, I read it twice. Then I laughed, actually laughed out loud in my apartment, which startled my cat and probably concerned my neighbors. You know, what I knew was this. I was sitting in a studio apartment in Arlington, Virginia, eating leftover pad thai straight from the container, wearing a hoodie with a rip in the armpit, surrounded by 3 monitors and the gentle hum of server fans. What I knew was that after he had told me after he had spent 5 years telling me that I wasn't feminine enough, wasn't girlfriend material, wasn't the kind of woman men actually wanted, I had stopped caring what Colt Mercer thought about literally anything, but I was curious about Isla Vaughn. I opened my laptop, pulled up the wedding website he had referenced, because of course it was a whole website, and started scrolling through the details. Rehearsal dinner. Reception venue. The couple's registry at some place that specialized in $400 throw pillows. Then I googled the bride's full name, Isla Vaughn. Lifestyle influencer, brand ambassador for Vaughn Logistics Group. My fingers stopped moving. Vaughn Logistics Group. The Vaughn Logistics Group, the company that had been my entire world for the past 6 months. The $850K opportunity my startup had been courting since before I had even incorporated. The deal that would mean my team of 4 could finally afford to hire a 5th person. The deal that kept me up at night, checking my email every 20 minutes, refreshing my browser like it was a lottery ticket. I sat back in my chair and just stared at the screen. Then I called my best friend Rillin. Please tell me, I said without preamble, that Isla Vaughn and Harrison Vaughn, CEO of Vaughn Logistics, are not related. There was a pause. I am gonna need more context. Give me a second. I pulled up the Vaughn Logistics LinkedIn page, found the executive team, Harrison Vaughn, Chief Executive Officer. Profile picture showed a man in his late 50s with salt and pepper hair and the kind of intense stare that probably made junior analysts nervous. Then I searched his family, found the announcement. Proud to announce my daughter Isla Vaughn's engagement to Colton Mercer. Oh my God, I whispered. Okay, now I am concerned, Rillin said. What happened? I told her. About Colt, about the card, about Isla, about the fact that my ex-boyfriend, the same guy who had dumped me because I cared more about Python than lipstick, was marrying the daughter of my biggest potential client. Rillin, bless her, was quiet for exactly 3 seconds before she said, Tessa, number, is this real life? I wish it wasn't. What are you gonna do? That was the question, wasn't it? My startup had been negotiating with Vaughn Logistics for 6 months. We were close, so close. Our logistics management software was exactly what they needed. And Harrison Vaughn had made it clear in our last meeting that he was impressed. Not just with the product, but with me, with the way I had presented it, the way I had answered his technical questions without the condescending. Let me explain this, like you are 5-tone that he clearly had developed an allergy to after decades of male engineers doing exactly that. I could pull out of the deal. Tell them something came up. Lose $850K and watch someone else sell them an inferior product. Or I could be professional about it. I am not going to run away from a business opportunity because of a guy, I told Rillin. That is not who I am. Even if that guy is your ex, especially if that guy is my ex. Rillin made a noise that was equal parts admiration and concern. Girl, this is going to be a mess. It doesn't have to be. I am just going to continue being professional. Vaughn doesn't know about Colt. Colt doesn't know that I am negotiating with his soon-to-be father-in-law. I will deal with it professionally, close the deal, and then we never have to see each other again. You are more zen than I would be, Rillin said. I am not zen. I am just tired of letting guys who underestimate me take up real estate in my head. The meeting the following week went better than I had dared hope. I walked into the Vaughn Logistics conference room on a Wednesday morning carrying a presentation deck that I had stayed up until 3 a.m. perfecting. Harrison Vaughn was already there, along with 3 members of his operations team. He stood when I entered, an old-school courtesy that I genuinely appreciated, and shook my hand with firm confidence. Tessa, he said. Good to see you again. I have been thinking about our last conversation, about the scalability features you mentioned. For the next 90 minutes, I walked them through how our software could integrate with their existing systems, how it would reduce their processing time by an estimated 40%, how we had already implemented a version of it at a mid-sized logistics company in Pennsylvania that had seen a 35% reduction in human error. Harrison asked good questions, smart questions, the kind that told me he actually understood the material, and wasn't just nodding along for appearance's sake, and he treated me like an equal. No, well, let me get our technical team to verify this. No assumption that I was just there to look pretty and read off slides. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair and smiled. This is exactly what we need, he said. I want to move forward with the partnership. Let's get our legal team in touch with yours to draw up the contract. I felt something release in my chest, something I had been holding tight since I had gotten that wedding invitation. Thank you, I said. I think you are going to be happy with the integration timeline. He stood again, extended his hand. I know we will be. You know, Tessa, I have dealt with a lot of software developers and tech people in my career. The good ones are the ones who actually listen. You do that. You don't oversell, you don't condescend. You just present the facts and let them speak for themselves. That is rare. I shook his hand, trying not to show how much I needed to hear that, trying not to think about Colt's voice in my head, years ago. You would be prettier if you talked less about code and more about, I dunno, normal stuff. I appreciate that, I said. We are gonna do good work together. As I was packing up my laptop, Harrison glanced up from the contract draft his assistant had just brought in. Oh, I almost forgot. My daughter's getting married next month. I am hosting a reception at the Ivy Club in Georgetown. I would love it if you could attend. Consider it a thank you for the partnership. And frankly, there are some other industry leaders I would like to introduce you to. Great networking opportunity. I froze mid-laptop slide. That is very kind of you, I heard myself say in a voice that sounded like it belonged to someone braver than I felt. It is really my pleasure. I will have my assistant send you the details. Saturday evening, black tie. It should be a nice event. I will be there, I said, and I meant it. I called Raylan the moment I got to my car. He invited me to the wedding, I said. What? As a thank you for the partnership? As a networking opportunity? He has no idea that Colt is marrying his daughter. Colt probably didn't tell him because Colt's a coward, Raylan finished. Because it makes him look bad, I continued. Which, honestly, he should feel bad about, Tessa. Are you actually considering going? Why wouldn't I go? Because it is the ex's wedding. Because it is awkward. Because I am a professional and a CEO extended a business invitation to a major client meeting that happens to take place at his daughter's wedding. That is how I am framing it. Raylan was quiet. You are gonna go anyway, aren't you? Yeah, I said. I am. Okay, well, when this inevitably explodes and becomes a whole thing, I am gonna need you to agree that I was right to be concerned about it from the beginning. Deal, I said. But it is not gonna explode. I was wrong, but not in the way I expected. 2 weeks before the wedding, I signed the contract with Vaughn Logistics, $850,000 for the first year, with annual renewal options and performance-based bonuses. It was the largest deal my company had ever closed. My dev team Jake and Marcus opened the very expensive bottle of wine I had been saving for exactly this moment. We sat in our small office on Wilson Boulevard, toasting to growth and opportunity, and the fact that we could finally afford to upgrade our server capacity without making me lose sleep. Tessa, Jake said, refilling his glass. You just changed the trajectory of this company. I knew it. I felt it in my chest, that particular electric feeling of rightness, of doors opening, of betting on myself and winning. I just didn't know yet that the real test was still coming. Harrison Vaughn called me personally the next day. Wanted to congratulate you again, he said, and I wanted to let you know the wedding is Saturday. You will be at table 4, which is family and close business partners. I think you will enjoy it. My wife's looking forward to meeting you, and Isla mentioned that you sound brilliant. Thank you for everything, I said. I am looking forward to it. And I was. Genuinely, despite the Colt situation, which I would almost manage to not think about constantly, I was looking forward to being in a room with people who valued what I could do, people who didn't care whether I wore makeup or heels or anything traditionally feminine. People, in other words, who were nothing like Colt. Saturday arrived in that way that important days do too fast and too slow simultaneously. I spent the afternoon getting ready, which, for me, meant showering, doing my makeup to a level I could describe as polished, and pulling on the dress I had bought specifically for this event. It was charcoal gray, professional but elegant, the kind of thing that said I am here to be taken seriously without saying I am trying too hard. I looked in the mirror and felt something that might have been confidence, might have been just good anxiety management. The venue was stunning, some old Georgetown mansion that had been converted into an event space, all soaring ceilings and carefully curated elegance. A valet took my keys and I checked in at the front table, where a smiling coordinator handed me a card with my table assignment. Table 4. The ceremony was beautiful. In the way weddings tend to be, Isla looked like someone had photographed a Pinterest board and animated it all white silk and careful curls. She was gorgeous. I could admit that objectively, and she looked happy in a way that seemed genuine beneath the professional smile. I sat 3 rows back, between an older woman who spent the entire ceremony crying softly into a tissue, and a man who kept checking his phone. Neither of them looked at me, which was fine. I watched the ceremony without really watching it, feeling something like numb. This was fine. This was manageable. This was manageable right up until we moved to the reception, and I was shown to table 4. The table was positioned close to the raised head table, and Harrison Vaughn was waiting for me, standing as I approached. His wife was beside him, a warm-looking woman with kind eyes named Margaret, and they both greeted me like I was an actual human being and not some awkward artifact from their future son-in-law's past. Tessa, Harrison said, pulling out a chair. I am so glad you made it. Have you met my wife? I haven't had the pleasure, I said, shaking Margaret's hand. She squeezed my hand with a kind of genuine warmth that suggested she maybe didn't know about the ex situation, which was fine with me. The ceremony had just concluded, and people were mingling while staff set up the reception. I sat, accepted a champagne flute from a passing server, and took a deep breath. I could do this. I was strong. I was professional. I was Tessa, so good to see you. I looked up. Isla was approaching the table, radiant in her wedding dress, with Colt trailing slightly behind her like a satellite caught in her gravitational pull. My stomach did that thing again. The flip, the twist. Isla, I said, standing up. Congratulations. You look beautiful. Thank you. Dad's told me so much about you. You are the genius behind the software, right? He has been raving about you all week. I am Isla Tessa, I said, already knowing this was the moment. Already knowing that Colt had gone very, very still beside his new wife. Isla extended her hand, and I took it. And that is when Colt made a noise, not quite a word, not quite anything. And I turned my head and met his eyes directly. His face had gone white, not metaphorically white, actually genuinely pale in the way that people's faces go when they have received a significant shock to their system. His mouth opened closed, opened again. He started. Tessa, Colt, I said, and then I stood up and extended my hand, professional smile firmly in place. Congratulations on your wedding. Harrison, bless him, didn't sense any of the tension I was emanating like a low-frequency hum. Colt, I would like you to meet Tessa Marlin, our new strategic technology partner. Tessa, this is my son-in-law. Colt shook my hand like he was operating a puppet. His grip was clammy. You didn't. I didn't know you were coming. I finished pleasantly. Your father-in-law invited me as a thank you for the business partnership. It is a beautiful wedding. Isla looked between her husband and me, confusion starting to etch itself into her features. How do you two know each other? We worked together briefly, Colt said quickly. A long time ago, just briefly. This was technically the biggest lie I had ever heard, but I said nothing. Just smiled, Harrison continued, oblivious to the subtext. Tessa's company just signed an $850,000 contract with us. She is going to completely revolutionize our logistics operation. Brilliant mind. I watched Colt process this information, watched his face move through several distinct emotional states, shock, then disbelief, then humiliation, then something that looked like regret mixed with resentment. That is great, he managed. It is, I agreed. Well, I should let you get to your other guests. Again, congratulations. I sat back down, turned my attention to Margaret, and asked her about their recent trip to Europe. She was more than happy to tell me about it. Rome, Florence. The way the light hit the Arno River and I listened and nodded, and didn't look at Colt for the rest of the hour. But I felt his eyes on me constantly, felt him watching me chat with Harrison's colleagues, felt him noticing when a VP from a competitor company approached our table and shook my hand with genuine respect, felt him realizing, moment by moment, that I was not only here, but I was important. The dancing started around 9. I had spent the reception talking business, networking with exactly the kind of people Harrison had promised to introduce me to, and generally doing the thing I was there to do, which was building my professional reputation and closing my company's future opportunities. I was heading toward the bathroom when Colt intercepted me near the parking lot exit. Tessa, wait, I need to talk to you. I stopped, turned around. He looked rough, tie loosened, hair slightly messed up, the kind of desperate energy that comes from trying to hold yourself together while everything shifts underneath you. Okay, I said. Talk. Why didn't you tell me? His voice was low, urgent. About the deal, about the contract. Why didn't you say anything? Tell you what? Exactly. I kept my voice level, calm, professional, even though we were alone in a parking lot next to his wedding. That I built a successful company after you dumped me. That your father-in-law respects my work regardless of whether I wear lipstick. I am serious, Tessa. Why would you do this? Why would you come here and Colt? I took a step closer. Your father-in-law invited me to a business event. His daughter's wedding happened to be the venue. I accepted the invitation. That is not doing anything to you. That is just being a professional. You are right, he said, and the agreement seemed to deflate him slightly. You are right, that is, you handled it correctly. I didn't expect to see you here. Clearly. I am sorry, he said, and he sounded like he meant it, which was somehow worse than if he had sounded defensive for everything, for what I said when we broke up. I was an asshole. You were, I agreed. You told me I wasn't feminine enough, that I cared too much about my career, that I needed to be more like your friends' girlfriends, and then you found someone who was, and you married her. That is what you wanted. So you got it. But I was wrong. His voice cracked slightly. You are obviously successful now. You built all this. The company, the software, this whole thing, and I didn't think you could. I know you didn't. I cut him off gently, but firmly. That is the thing, Colt. You looked at me and you decided I wasn't enough, based on the way I dressed and the way I spent my time. You didn't believe in my potential because it didn't fit into what you thought a girlfriend should be, and I cannot change that now just by being successful. All I can do is accept that your opinion of me was never actually about my worth. It was about your insecurity, he flinched. I am not insecure. You needed a girlfriend who would make you feel like a man by putting you first, by being traditionally feminine, by confirming your identity. That is insecurity. I said it not unkindly, but definitely. I am happy for you and Isla. She seems nice. I hope you are happy with her, but I am not going to apologize for being exactly the same person I was when we were together. Same brain, same skills, same work ethic. The only thing that changed is that I stopped wasting energy trying to prove myself to someone who had already decided I wasn't enough. He looked at me for a long moment. You have changed, though. You are different. I am not. I am just more confident about who I already was. I picked up my bag. You should get back inside. Isla's probably wondering where you are. Tessa, congratulations on your wedding. Colt, really? I hope you have a good life. I walked to my car, got in, and drove away while he was still standing in the parking lot, looking like a man who had been expecting one kind of story and gotten a completely different one instead. I posted the final update to Reddit late that night, sitting in my apartment with my cat on my lap, and the achievement of an entire day sitting heavily on my shoulders. I went to the wedding, he saw me. He realized what he gave up. And you know what? I didn't feel victorious. I felt relieved. The partnership with Vaughn Logistics is solid. Harrison Vaughn is a great leader who judges people by their competence, not their gender or how feminine they are. Isla seems nice. I genuinely hope she is happy. Colt looked shocked, then embarrassed. Then he tried to apologize in the parking lot afterward. But honestly, I didn't need his apology. I needed this moment to realize something. His opinion of me was never about my worth. It was about his insecurity. He needed a feminine girlfriend to feel like a man. When I focused on my career instead of makeup tutorials, it threatened his ego. Someone asked if this is the best revenge. It is not revenge. It is just proof that when someone rejects you for not fitting their mold, the answer isn't to change yourself. It is to find people who value you as you are. To all the women out there who have been told you are too much or not enough, build your life anyway. The right people will see your value. The wrong people will regret not seeing it sooner. Thanks for following this wild ride, Reddit. I am logging off to prep for Monday's client meeting with Vaughn Logistics. Time to keep building. I hit post and closed the laptop. Outside my window, Arlington was quiet. The way it gets late at night. My phone buzzed a text from Raylan. Tell me everything. Also, I told you so eternally. I laughed and texted back, buy me brunch and I will give you the full debrief. But for now, I just sat with my cat and let myself feel what I had been holding back all day. Not victory, not revenge, just the clean, simple fact of knowing that I'd handled something difficult with integrity, and that had made all the difference. The bed felt good when I finally went to it. The sleep came easy, and when I woke up Sunday morning, the first thing I thought about wasn't Colt, or the wedding, or the irony of the situation. The first thing I thought about was the meeting I had Monday morning, and how I was going to pitch a new feature to Harrison Vaughn that would take the software from good to exceptional. That felt like victory enough.